Lag BaOmer is upon us. The holy day of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And I want to read you a story about Rabbi Shimon and about the evil ancient Romans. It says the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lag, Lamed Gimel, Med Beis. So the Gemara is talking about, there were a number of Tanoim, of great sages that were sitting together, and they were discussing some of the actions of that ancient government. So the Gemara says, Pasach Rabbi Yehuda, V'Omar. Rabbi Yehuda opened up and said, Kamenoi Ma'aseim Shel Umazu. Look how nice the actions of this nation are. Tiknu Shvakim. They made beautiful marketplaces, for buying and selling. It's nice having places to go and get all your wares. Tiknu Gesharim. They made such amazing bridges. It makes it so much nicer and easy to get over the rivers. So much more convenient. Tiknu Merchotzos. They made big bathhouses. So nice in order to clean oneself. Period. That was Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Shosak. Rabbi Yossi was silent. Nene Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said the following. V'amar kol ma shetiknu. Everything that they made, loy tiknu el l'tzeirach atzman. Tiknu. They only made it for themselves. Tiknu shvakim lahoyshe vehem zoynis. You know why they made all those shuks? In order to have a place for the prostitution to exist, that people could come and gather and they can support such behaviors. Mirchotzos, and you know what I mean? All these grand bathhouses. Le'eden behem atzman. They made all these grand bathhouses to beautify themselves. Oh, and the Gesharim, all those bridges that they made. Litol mehem nechet. You know why they made those wonderful bridges? Not for our convenience, because you know what happens when you get to the bridge, my friends? That's right, tolls. My wife's family's in Philly, so we like to go into New York when we're there. You know how much it costs us to get to New York from Philly? Forget the gas, the tolls. Okay, they have to support the rosa. Rav Shimon said, yeah, they made the bridges because they're going to make on the deal. They're going to make big. So you know what happened? The whole story of Yehuda ben Gerim, and he told it over. And what happened? What happened? Rabbi Yehuda was promoted. Rabbi Yossi they sent out to who knows. And Rabbi Shimon, he went to Tzipori, and Rabbi Shimon had to run for his life. Okay, that's the story. And this gets into the whole story of Rabbi Shimon hiding in the cave, which we'll maybe get into tomorrow. What does this all mean? And what's Lag BaOmer all about? And what does it have to do with me? Lag BaOmer, which is the world of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is the world of seeing things from the inner perspective, whereas most of the world sees things from the external perspective, and that's it. What do I mean? I mean, there's a famous story about Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik V'Kodesh Livracha, that there was one day, back in the day, they used to get their milk delivered by the milkman, and they came in these glass bottles, and then you put the bottle out, and then you get fresh milk. And the Rebbitzin, Moshe Feinstein's wife, she would boil up the milk, and then she would serve her husband, the Gadol Ador, warm milk, give him strength. And every single day she would do this. Now one day, the Rebbitzin said, I don't know what happened, but the milk, as I was boiling it all overflowed and went everywhere. So Rabbi Moshe Feinstein listened carefully. He put on his hat and his jacket, and he sat down at the table, and he said, every single day, the milk doesn't boil over. But today it did. Every single day, the milk doesn't boil over, but today it did. So what's pshat? Every single day, the milk didn't boil, but now what's pshat? Oh. And he realized, the Rebbe says, oh, I realized that we didn't pay the milkman today. We forgot. And, okay, and there was a message. Now, what would most people think? What happened? The milk boiled over. Like, that's what happened. What are you looking into it so much? There's what happened. Take a Polaroid. The milk boiled over. But Rav Moshe Feinstein is, what is the inner meaning? What caused it? What's going on under the surface? Everyone put on their tefillin today? Of course. Okay? What is tefillin? Not did you put on tefillin. What were you thinking about when you were putting on tefillin? Put on tefillin is the simple meaning. But what were you thinking about in your tefillin? Everyone have mezuzahs on their doors? Of course. So, what part is the external part of the mezuzah? How do you write it? If two letters are touching, it's invalid. Is it kosher? Is it invalid? That's all the simple external. Is it a kosher mezuzah? Is it in the right spot? Has to be in the upper third of the door frame. Ideally, the lower half of the upper third. Facing, tilted inwards, according to Ashkenazim. The Sephardim do it straight up. And then there's the inner dimension of the mezuzah. What's a mezuzah? What is a mezuzah? Like, what is it? What's the ore of the mezuzah? What's the inner dimension? All of you now are here listening to a shir. We're learning Torah. So the simple meaning is, oh, we're here learning Torah. But then there's an inner meaning. What brought me here? Why are we all here right now together? What's the meaning of this? What's the inner dimension? What is God telling me now? Not just from the words we're saying, but from the entirety of the experience. What's the meaning between the letters? The world of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is, what's the inner meaning of life? What's the kavanah? What's going on under the surface? What's the deeper story that's going on? Not just the superficial part of the story. What's deeper going on? And that's why, of course, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the author of all of the Kabbalah. As what's the inner meaning? And once you start going for the inner meaning of things, you feel less stuck. A person's at a dead-end job. Why are you in that job? That's all. That's the only one that got back to me. That's the only, nobody else liked my resume. But what is it, what's really going on? You don't think there's more happening here than meets the eye? There's a message here. You always have to start digging. What is the real meaning? Maybe you're in this place as you could start to do tshuva and say, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be in this dead-end job anymore. Not just, I'm here, so I guess that's it. The world of Rabbi Shimon says, go deeper and deeper and deeper. A main reason why Mashiach is not here yet is we're just comfortable seeing the world just as it is. But then Hashem starts stirring up the pot and making the world go meshugana, if you haven't noticed. And a person can't just sit back and say, you know what? I'm comfortable with my nice house, my white picket fence, my, my 2.2 children, my whatever 0.2 of a child is, and my, nowadays 4.7 dogs, and it's a ratio. Double the dogs to children, and two cars, and it's fine. I'm very comfortable. I got a kosher restaurant down the block. I got a minion, that more or less I'm pleased with. It's fine. It's fine. Like the famous story. It's not a story. It's a bit sad that Mashiach came to a community, And he told them, I'm not going to mention the name of the community, he came to the community and he said, I'm here. It was somewhere outside of the land of Israel. He said, I'm here. We're coming back to Israel. We're going to build the Beis Hamikdash. And they all, shifted in their seats. Ooh, Moshiach, we just had to have a board meeting. Just 1 second. No, in 1 hour. We'll just have a meeting. Okay, I'm here. And the head of the board gets up to speak and says, Moshiach, after careful deliberation, we've realized that we're going to stay here. We're not going to go to Israel, but we'll send money. It's not so funny. It's sad. What are you thinking? Mashiach came. But sometimes, even when things are so obvious, we can't go into the deeper meaning. Maybe it's time to change your entire life forever. Forever. So now back to our story of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What did Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda said, you see things the way they are. And we'll explain this in a moment. At the end of the day, marketplaces are good, bridges are good, bathhouses are good. These are good things. And God can make good things come through these people. Rabbi Shimon said, no, you have to be very careful because you need to know what were they thinking? What was their inner motivation? What was the inner motivation of what they were doing? And Rabbi Yehuda says back, yeah, but they're just messengers of God. So we can see the good that came out of it. They're not doing it from their own will. God is moving through them. They're messengers of God. So why can't we take the good that comes out of it? So Rabbi Shimon said you have to be very, very careful of this. Be very, very careful. Is be nervous and careful that if you think that they're just messengers, so you could actually hear this very well. This is the Yam Derkecha points this out, very, very deep and nuanced point. If you become too much into, they're just messengers of God, I'm sure it's all good. One love, one heart. Let's just get together. It's all good. It's all from God, right? Be very careful. Because if you get a little too, it's all good, then you could get pulled after their ways. Be very nervous of that and careful. Because Rabbi Shimon says, be careful. They had motivations. You have to dig deeper. They're putting prostitutes in these places. They're trying to steal all your money. They're trying to just take care of their own self. Be careful of this. And in the end of days, as the light of Rabbi Shimon is getting stronger and stronger, there's a bigger need for being careful and seeing what was the inner meaning, what's going on under the surface, what's the inner secret of what's happening. Now it's interesting, who was Rabbi Yossi in the story? Rabbi Yossi was quiet. Rabbi Yossi was saying that I see the benefit of both. There's a benefit of seeing like Rabbi Yehuda. That on the surface, we look at the surface, these are messengers of God, there must be something good there. But I see the need for Rabbi Shimon. You have to be very, very careful. So Rabbi Yossi, also Yossi is the language of Yosef. Yosef is the sixth sphera, which is Yosoid, which is the connection. That's everything about connecting. Yossi was trying to connect the belief system of Rabbi Shimon and the belief system of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi is always the connection point that fuses that belief together. Rabbi Shimon is the one that's saying, look deeper and we're going to need to know certain things. It's very interesting, the beginning of the Zohar. You can always tell something if you look at the beginning and the introduction of something. Whatever the introduction of a book is the summary of the main message that they're trying to give you. Because they packed it all into the beginning. That's why the Hakdama, that's why the best way to see what a book is all about, just read the first page or so. Introduction is, you get a feel for the whole book, of what it's all about. What's the introduction to the Talmud? Ishma. Me'emasai Kohen Shema Ba'arvin is Kohanim. Klal Yisrael is Mamlechas Kohanim, is Shema, is Hashem's unity. The most quintessential thing about a Yid is Hashem is one. That's why, by the way, in Shas, when there's a Machloikas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, who do we paskin like? Like Rabbi Yehuda. The halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, what's the pshat? Shas, the Gemara, is the word of Rabbi Yehuda. Is if you were to ask a Yid, what is the true reality? Hashem is one. That's all. That's all there is. But in the world of the Zohar, it's interesting, in the Shas, the halach is not like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Halach is what you see on the surface. But in the Zohar, the same Tanaim would crawl on their knees in front of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Baitzina Kadisha, the great fire. Everything was according to Rabbi Shimon in the Zohar. What does the Zohar start with? What is in the beginning? The beginning section of the Zohar is an entire description of the different forces of evil in the world. Of Erev Rav, of Amalek, of knowing, of delineating, of being careful, of seeing what's going on. Was tut sich under the surface. Getting into the kavana. What were these ancient Romans? What were they really trying to do? The Zohar is about peeling back and revealing. The word Zohar means a light, a great light. The great light. That's why the first 32 days of the Omer is the Leiv. The Leiv means things are very, very leibedik. If you guys haven't noticed, it's been, for many, many people, it's a very, very wild ride, this period of the Omer. And then something happens where we end that section and we go to Lag, and the last 17 days is all Tov. Gematria Tov. Leiv Tov. The first is Leiv, and then Tov, a good heart. Tov, everything is already, the light is already out. That's why many people don't have the custom after Lag BaOmer to do any signs of mourning. They make weddings, they listen to music again. Only during the first part was the real signs of the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva, but afterwards, once the light of Rabbi Shimon gets out, you see under the surface what's really going on. This is one of the main takeaways of Lag BaOmer. Is a person, in order to b'siyat d'shmai bring Mashiach, is don't be shallow. See deeper. See deeper into the story of what's really going on. Deeper into the story. And when a person does that, everything becomes filled with light. He realizes he can get out of any situation. He sees the inner meaning of things. I'll tell you one famous chazal, that there was a couple who were married and they were not zoicha to have children. And sadly, after 10 years, there is such a thing that if there's not able to have children, then the couple could, maybe go separate ways. And they came to Rabbi Shimon, and they said, Rabbi, we're going to be getting a divorce, and we just want you to help us to go through that. And he said, I have to ask you, did the two of you guys make a party when you got married? So of course, we had a very fancy chasana, Del Rey beach, very geschmack, invited everybody. Eitan Katz is there. It was gewaldig. It was mamish. It was popping. And the food, and ice sculptures. It was unbelievable. Okay. I want you to make the same party now for your divorce. You made a party when you got married. I want you to make another party for your divorce. A bit of a strange request, but after all, it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So they acquiesced to the request, and they made a giant party with music and food, and they sent invitations out. Welcome to our divorce party. And of course, at the party, they had beverages flowing, and the husband, was partaking, and that through the course of the night, he got a little bit, leibedik, leiv tov, leiv beyoyin, tov leiv beyoyin, yoyin gematria side. His heart got filled up with secrets. And he went to his soon-to-be ex-wife and he said, we've had some good years together. I just want that, I want you to know, he was a very rich man. He said, whatever, the most precious thing, the most expensive thing in my empire, it's yours. I just want you to know, besides the ksuba, whatever, I'll give that to you. Fine. And at that point, he didn't say it as nicely as I said it, whatever, it's yours, yeah. And then he kind of collapsed, and the wife had some of her, family members and said, please pick him up and bring him to my father's house. And he woke up the next day a little bit dazed, where am I? In Beis Abba. And he realized that he was in his father-in-law's house, and he said to his wife, who was standing right there, he says, why am I here? Why am I in Beis Abba? And she said to him, but didn't you tell me that whatever was the most precious from the empire should take home? And that's you. And they went to Rabbi Shimon and they said, we want to stay together. And they had a child after that. What can Rabbi Shimon do? He can find the depths that are going on deeper, the kivun, the kavana, all the way in to the depths of the soul. Shimon Bar Yochai, Gematria Pekidas Akaras, to make those who could not bear children once again have life. Because when you get to the root of something, when you get all the way to the shoirish, to the root of what it is, all good things flow from there. So Rabbi Shimon is tapping us into the deepest part of who we are. That's also why we sing Mikvi Yisrael Hashem. We sing that Amar Rabbi Akiva Ashrechem Yisrael. And everyone's thinking, what does the mikveh have to do with Rabbi Shimon? Because what's the mikveh? The mikveh means that I go all the way back. You think you're just going into a body of water? Your soul is immersing in the supernal mikveh of Shemayim, where you were born from. That's why the mikveh, you go in without closing it, like you're being born again. You're going back to your soul root. And from that place, all blessings can flow forth. So on this day, there's tremendous blessing that flows forth. And our ability to bring Mashiach is extremely powerful. And we're davening now, Siyat D'Shmaya, that all those souls, the 45 neshamas, Kedoshas, B'Kroi Ve'Akadesh, who went up to Shemayim, that this year on their Yortzeit, that they share the Yortzeit with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Lag BaOmer, that those neshamas should have tremendous aliyahs, and those souls are in the highest places in the Ginzei Morim, in the highest places in Gan Eden, those holy, holy neshamas, that they should tear open all the gates once and for all, that we should see the deepest depths of our own soul, of our heart. These are the biggest days to be davening for everything. Daven for your families and daven for your spouse and your husband and your wife and your kids and your parents and your grandparents, your family members and Klal Yisrael and humanity and Mashiach, everything. Beis HaMikdash. Daven for all the sick. Daven for everything. Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. Gematria, Shimon ben Yochai. Daven for everything during this time. And B'siyat D'Shmaya we'll see the deep kavanas, the deep oimek of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, of Bereshis. Bereshis Bar Elokim. Bereshis is the letters S Rashbi. Bar Leki Meisa Shemayim Veisa Arts. The whole world is to get to the point of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That's the Bereshis, is to see that or. Is Nase Odom Nemar Bavurechas. We should be Zoicha Mamish to Mashiach Zeiten, be Zoicha the Bein Beis HaMikdash, to find the deepest kavanas inside of us, that all we want to do is be close to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and bring the whole world to that truth. Amen ve'amen. Amen. Kol Tuv. Have a wonderful day. Part 2 will be tomorrow.